March 1945. A small German town, recently taken by American forces. In a temporary interrogation room, 3 German officers sit across from an American intelligence captain. They are mid-ranking officers, a major and 2 captains, career soldiers with years of combat experience. The American captain pushes a photograph across the table. Do you recognize this man? The image shows an American general in full uniform, standing by a tank, pearl-handled revolvers at his hips. The German major leans in, examines it closely, and nods immediately. Patton. General George Patton. You're sure? Absolutely. Every officer on the Western Front knows that face. The major pauses, choosing his words carefully. He's the most dangerous American commander. The American captain makes a note and slides another photo across the table. This one depicts an older man in a worn field jacket, without any insignia, standing casually beside a jeep, eating an apple. He looks more like a tired supply sergeant than a general. And this man, the German officers study the photo. One shakes his head, the other shrugs. I don't know, the major admits. A colonel, maybe a staff officer. The American captain allows a small smile. That's also Patton. Taken 2 days ago, 3 miles from where you were captured. The German officers stare, unable to believe it. That cannot be Patton, the major insists. He moves with an entourage. Heavy security, command vehicles. He wears his full uniform with all his decorations. He makes himself visible to inspire the troops. Usually, yes, the captain agrees, but sometimes he moves forward in an unmarked jeep. No insignia, no escort, just him and a driver, as close to the front as possible. The major studies the photo again, shaking his head slowly. If this is true, if Patton really goes to the front lines without protection, then what? Then he's either the bravest man I've ever heard of, the major says quietly, or the craziest. The American captain replies, closing his folder. According to the men who serve under him, he's both. This is the story of George Patton, the general who terrified German commanders not just with his strategies, but with his total disregard for his own safety. The man who appeared at the front when he should have been miles behind it. The general whom German officers could hardly believe was actually there, doing things no sane commander would attempt. Section 3. The Bridge Incident. August 1944. France. Engineers from the 317th Regiment are building a pontoon bridge across a river while under sporadic German fire. It is dangerous work. Every few minutes, artillery shells land nearby, sending fountains of water into the air. Sergeant Mike Callahan is directing his men when a jeep pulls up. An older man in a plain uniform steps out and walks calmly onto the partially completed bridge. Sir, Callahan shouts, that's not safe. We're under fire. I can see that. The man replies, moving to the middle of the bridge to inspect the construction. How long until it's finished? Maybe 2 hours if the shelling doesn't get worse. Make it 1 hour. I need tanks across by 1600. Callahan opens his mouth to argue, then notices the pearl-handled revolvers at the man's hips. His face pales. General Patton, he whispers. That's right. Now get this bridge finished. A German shell lands 50 yards away. Water sprays across the bridge. Callahan's men duck instinctively. Patton does not flinch. He stands hands on hips, watching the engineers work. Sir, Callahan says carefully, you should probably take cover. I'm fine here, Sergeant. Your men are working under fire. The least I can do is stand with them. Another shell lands closer. Shrapnel pings off the metal pontoons. Patton remains unmoved. Seeing their commanding general standing calmly under artillery fire, the engineers suddenly work with renewed determination. If he isn't afraid, neither will they be. The bridge is completed in 55 minutes. As Patton's jeep drives away, Callahan turns to his men. That crazy son of a, he's going to get himself killed one of these days. Maybe, one engineer replies. But damn if he doesn't make you want to follow him. Section 4, The Hospital Visit. September 1944. A field hospital behind the lines. Patton visits wounded soldiers regularly, one of the few predictable moments. He insists on seeing every man from the Third Army, speaking to them, thanking them for their service. Today he is visiting a tent full of men with severe injuries. Amputations, major wounds, burns. He moves from bed to bed, speaking quietly. "Where you from, son?" "Texas, sir." "Good state. You'll be going home soon. They'll fix you up, and you'll have a hell of a story to tell." He stops at a bed where a young private, maybe 19, has lost both legs below the knee. The private stares at the ceiling, avoiding Patton's eyes. "What's your name?" "Anderson, sir." "Look at me, Anderson." The private slowly turns his head. "You think your life is over," Patton says quietly. "You think you'll never be whole again." Anderson nods, tears welling. "You're wrong," Patton says firmly. "You lost your legs, but you didn't lose your mind. You didn't lose your courage. You didn't lose your worth as a man." He leans closer. "I've seen men with all their limbs who have no courage, and I've seen men who sacrificed everything who have more courage in one little finger than most people have in their whole bodies. You are one of them. You fought. You bled. You gave more than most people will ever give for anything. That makes you a hero, legs or no legs." Tears stream down Anderson's face. "Thank you, sir," he whispers. Patton's own eyes are wet. He salutes the private. "Thank you, soldier, for your service, for your sacrifice." He leaves the tent quickly. His aide sees him wipe his eyes before composing himself. He cries. The aide asks a medical officer. "Every time," the officer replies. He puts on a hard face to the troops. But when he sees what it cost them, it breaks him. Then he goes back to the front even harder. Try to end it faster, so fewer men have to suffer. Section 5, The Tank Commander. October 1944. Eastern France. A Sherman tank from the 4th Armored Division breaks down on a muddy road. The crew scrambles to fix it. They are exposed and vulnerable. A jeep pulls up. Sergeant Tom Rivera, assumes a mechanic, has arrived to help. Instead, an older man in a plain field jacket steps out. "What's the problem?" the man asks. "Throwing track, sir. We're working on it." "Let me see." The man walks around the tank, examining it as if he knows armor inside and out. "You're doing it wrong," he says. "Come here. I'll show you." For the next 20 minutes, he works alongside Rivera's crew, helping repair the track. He is knowledgeable, efficient, clearly familiar with Sherman maintenance. Only once the tank is ready does Rivera notice the revolvers. "Sir, are you—" "Get this tank back in the fight." "Sergeant," Patton interrupts, already heading to his jeep. "We got Germans to kill." He drives off before Rivera can reply. "Did General Patton just help us fix our tank?" Rivera's driver asks, stunned. "Yeah." Rivera says, "Yeah, he did." The story spreads through the 4th Armored Division within hours. The old man isn't just commanding from a desk. He's out in the mud, fixing tanks alongside his men. Morale, already high, skyrockets. Section 6, The German Sniper. November 1944. Near Metz, Patton's jeep is moving through a recently captured town when sniper fire erupts. The driver slams on the brakes. Bullets ping off buildings around them. "Get down, sir," the driver shouts. Patton stands up in the jeep instead. "Where are you?" he roars at the unseen sniper. "Show yourself, you son of a bitch." He draws one of his revolvers and fires several shots toward the building where he suspects the sniper is hiding. "Sir, get down." More bullets was passed. One passes so close to Patton's head that his aide riding in the back later swears he saw the general's hair move. Patton does not duck. He fires again and then shouts in German toward the building. "You missed, you bastard. Try again." American infantry, drawn by the commotion, converge on the building and capture the sniper, a terrified teenage boy who surrenders immediately. "Why didn't you take cover?" The aide asks afterward, hands still shaking. "Because fear is contagious," Patton replies calmly. "If I show fear, my men will fear. If I show courage, even reckless courage, they will be courageous." "But, sir, you could have been killed." Patton shrugs. "Every man at the front could be killed. I won't ask them to face danger I'm not willing to face myself." Later that day, word spreads. Patton stood up during a sniper attack and returned fire with his pistol. German intelligence files a report under unconfirmed. It sounds impossible. Section 7. The captured German officer. December 1944. Battle of the Bulge. A German major captured during the breakthrough Bastogne is being interrogated. "You knew Patton was coming?" The American interrogator asks. "We suspected." The major admits. "We knew Third Army was in the region." "Did you know Patton personally commanded the lead elements?" The major looks skeptical. "Generals don't command lead elements. They command from headquarters." The interrogator slides a photograph across the table. It shows Patton standing on a tank, binoculars in hand, less than a mile from active fighting. "This was taken yesterday." The interrogator says, "That's General Patton, less than 2 kilometers from your position." The major studies a photo, disbelief turning to shock. This cannot be real. It is real. But he's exposed. 1 artillery shell, 1 sniper, and the Third Army loses its commander. He doesn't seem to care. The major shakes his head slowly. "We were told American generals were soft, that they commanded from safety while their men died. We were told they had no understanding of the battlefield. We were told wrong, weren't we?" "About Patton?" "Yeah, you were told very wrong." The major sits back in his chair. "No wonder we're losing." Section 8. The Staff Argument. December 1944. Third Army Headquarters. Patton's Chief of Staff, General Hobart, confronts him after yet another unauthorized trip to the front. "Sir, you can't keep doing this. If something happens to you, if something happens to me, you'll take command." Patton interrupts. "Third Army will continue." "That's not the point, sir. You're too valuable to risk." "I'm a soldier," Patton snaps. "Soldiers go where the fighting is. That's the whole goddamn point." Hobart tries a different approach. "Sir, the men need you alive. Your strategic thinking, your leadership. They need to know their commander shares their danger. They need to know I'm not sitting in a chateau sipping champagne while they die in muddy foxholes. No one thinks that. Everyone thinks that about generals," Patton says. "Unless you prove otherwise, which I do every day, by going to front, seeing what they see, facing what they face." He softens slightly. "I know you're trying to protect me, Hobart. I appreciate it, but I can't lead men from behind a desk." "I won't." Hobart insists. "At least take more security with you." "I take enough. I take a driver and maybe 1 aide. That's plenty. Too much security makes me a target. An unmarked Jeep, an old man in a field jacket. Nobody pays attention until they realize it's me. By then, I'm already gone." Hobart knows he's lost this argument again. Section 9. The Bridge at Remagen. March 1945. The Ludendorff Bridge at Remagen, the last standing bridge across the Rhine. American forces captured it intact. Now there's a race to move as many troops across before the Germans destroy it. Patton arrives and immediately walks on the bridge, despite warnings of artillery and air strikes. "Sir, the bridge could fall at any moment," an engineer warns. "Then I'd better hurry," Patton replies, walking to the middle. He stands there, looking across the Rhine into Germany while shells explode in the water around him. Soldiers crossing the bridge stare in disbelief. Their commanding general is standing on the most dangerous piece of real estate in Europe, completely exposed, seemingly unconcerned. Patton reaches the far side, steps onto German soil, and does something that becomes legendary. He unzips his fly and urinates into the Rhine. "I've been waiting to do that for years," he announces to the shocked soldiers nearby. Then he walks back across the bridge, still under fire, gets in his Jeep, and drives away. The story spreads like wildfire. Within days, every soldier in the Third Army has heard it. Patton pissed in the Rhine while standing on a bridge the Germans were actively trying to destroy. One soldier says, admiringly, "Yeah," his buddy agrees, "but he's our kind of insane." Section 10, The German Assessment, April 1945. A classified German military intelligence report. Assessment. General George S. Patton, Commander, U.S. Third Army. Tactical abilities. Exceptional. Perhaps the finest American commander of mobile warfare. His understanding of armored operations rivals that of our best panzer generals. Strategic thinking. Aggressive to the point of recklessness. However, his aggression frequently succeeds where caution would fail. Leadership. Extraordinary. His men follow him anywhere, attempt any mission, endure any hardship. Personal behavior. Incomprehensible. Patton regularly appears at forward positions with minimal security. He exposes himself to enemy fire unnecessarily. He takes personal risks no general of his rank should take. This should be a weakness we could exploit. However, his unpredictability and minimal signature make targeting him nearly impossible. By the time we identify his location, he has already moved. Moreover, his frontline presence inspires his troops to levels of performance we cannot match. American soldiers believe their commander shares their danger, and they fight accordingly. Recommendation. Patton is Third Army's greatest asset and greatest liability. However, we cannot exploit the liability because we cannot predict or locate him. Secondary recommendation. Avoid engaging Third Army if alternative options exist. Under Patton, American forces demonstrate capability and morale beyond standard expectations. Personal note. If German generals had even a tenth of Patton's personal courage and frontline leadership, this war might have ended differently. The report is filed and quickly becomes irrelevant. Within weeks, Germany surrenders. Section 11, After the War. May 1945. Germany has surrendered. Patton is at the front, of course, when the news arrives. He is with a tank unit that has just crossed into Czechoslovakia. When the announcement comes over the radio that Germany has surrendered, soldiers cheer, cry, and celebrate. Patton stands quietly, watching them. An aide approaches. "Sir, are you all right?" "Fine," Patton says, his voice flat. "Sir." Patton turns away so his men cannot see his face. "This was my last war," he says quietly. "I'm too old for the next one. This was my purpose, and now it's over. You saved countless lives, sir. You ended the war months earlier than it might have ended otherwise." "Maybe," Patton replies. "But now what? What does a warrior do when there are no more wars to fight?" He has no answer. Neither does history. 7 months later, Patton will die in a car accident in Germany, never discovering what comes after war for a man who lived for it. Closing, George S. Patton. Patton was many things: brilliant, brutal, courageous to the point of insanity. He commanded armies from front, not from headquarters. He shared danger with his men, instead of ordering them into it from safety. He took risks that should have killed him a dozen times over. German officers could not believe the reports. They could not accept that an American general of Patton's rank would regularly appear at the front with minimal security, exposing himself to sniper fire, artillery, and enemy action. But American soldiers who served under him knew it was true. They saw him standing on bridges under fire, fixing tanks in the mud, walking through artillery barges as if he were taking a stroll in a park. He was either the bravest man alive or completely crazy, one veteran said. Decades later, probably both. After the war, captured German generals were asked which Allied commander they feared most. Almost unanimously, they answered Patton. Not because of his tactics, though those were brilliant. Not because of his aggression, though that was relentless. But because he was unpredictable, because he appeared where generals were not supposed to be, because he did things generals were not supposed to do, and because his men would follow him anywhere, through fire, through mud, through hell itself, because he never asked them to go anywhere he would not go first. That's not a general. German officers said when shown photographs of Patton at the front, they were wrong. That was exactly what a general looked like. At least, that's what Patton's version of a general looked like. And it terrified the Germans more than any tank or artillery barrage ever could. You can defend against weapons, but you cannot defend against a commander who refuses to be predictable, refuses to stay safe, and refuses to lead from anywhere except the front. When George S. Patton died in December 1945, his Jeep driver said, "I always thought he'd die at the front under fire, fighting. That's how he wanted to go. Instead, he died in a car accident on a quiet road. It's wrong." The driver added, "He deserved a warrior's death." But perhaps that was the final irony of Patton's life. The man who spent years daring death on the battlefield was killed by chance on a peaceful road. The warrior was denied his warrior's ending. German intelligence files on Patton were discovered after the war. In the margins of one report, a German officer had written in pencil, "Thank God there was only one of him.